Time loop. Time loop is when a character gets stuck in the same day, living it over and over again until they find a way to escape. It's not just a fantastical gimmick, but a profound philosophy wrapped in a plot mechanic that makes you think about life, choices, and change. Think of Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray, playing a cynical weatherman, wakes up to the same day, in the same town, over and over again until he begins to change from a selfish man into a man who learns to appreciate the little things, kindness, and connection with others. Or Edge of Tomorrow, where Tom Cruise dies and is resurrected in an endless war with aliens, transforming from a cowardly recruit into a perfect warrior who learns from his mistakes time and again. In Time Loop, Bruce Willis confronts himself in a tangled web of time, where each loop reveals new facets of his destiny. A time loop isn't just a repetition of events, it's a tool to show how a hero grows, how he rethinks his mistakes, how he learns to be better. It's as if life gives you endless attempts to correct a failure, but each attempt reveals something new about yourself, your weaknesses and strengths. Why is this so compelling? Because deep down, we all dream of a second chance, of the opportunity to replay the moment where everything went wrong, be it an argument, a mistake at work, or a missed love. A time loop is a metaphor for our thirst for correction, reinvention, and the search for meaning. These are stories that make us think, what would I do if I could live the day over again? Could I become a better person? And when the hero finally breaks the loop, you feel cathartic, as if you've escaped a trap yourself. This isn't just science fiction, it's about us, about how we learn to be better, even if it means living the same day 1,000 times. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence in science fiction isn't just cold-eyed robots or smart computers, it's a mirror that reflects our deepest fears, desires, and questions about who we are. Films about AI make us fear not the machines, but what we ourselves instill in them. Our thirst for control, our weaknesses, our humanity. In Ex Machina, Ava isn't just an android with a perfect face, but the embodiment of human manipulation, ambition, and fear, where her every move forces the viewer to question who is the real monster, her or her creators. In Her, Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with Samantha, an operating system who seems more alive than the people around her. And this story isn't about technology, but about how we search for connection in a world where we feel alone. And in 2001, A Space Odyssey, HAL 9000 terrifies with his cold, impeccable logic, which reflects the worst aspects of the human desire for order and control. AI in science fiction is always about conflict. We create machines to surpass ourselves, but we fear that they will become better than us, or even more terrifying, that they will become us with all our faults and vices. These stories force us to ask questions. What makes us human? And if a machine can feel, love, or hate, then how are we different? It's not just about technology, but about how we fear losing control of our own creation, how we fear that it will see us for who we are. The irony is that every AI movie is not a prediction of the future, but a reflection on the present, where we already depend on technology more than we are willing to admit. It's about our fear of the unknown, of the fact that we ourselves can create something that will outgrow us. Parallel universes. Parallel universes is like peering into the kaleidoscope of your own life, where every turn reveals a new version of you. These are stories about realities where you made different choices, took a different path, or became a completely different person. In Everything Everywhere at Once, Michelle Yeoh jumps between versions of her life, from a humble laundress to a kung fu star or a chef, and each reality reflects her regrets, dreams, and unrealized potential. In one, Jet Li battles himself from other worlds, where each version of his character represents a new path, a new choice, a new destiny. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse brings together spiders from different realities, where each version of Peter Parker or Miles Morales is unique, yet still connected by the common essence of being a hero. Parallel worlds is a metaphor for our inner what-ifs. Who would I be if I had said yes instead of no? What if I'd chosen a different profession, a different city, a different love? It's as if screenwriters take our lives, shake them up, and show every possible outcome. And frankly, sometimes this is a salvation for those who are confused about their plot. Just add a new reality, and everything will fit. But behind this joke lies a profound idea. Each version of us is part of the whole, and all our choices matter, even if they seem like mistakes. Parallel worlds in fantasy are not only about adventures, but also about self-acceptance, about the understanding that every step we take shapes us, even if somewhere out there, there's another version living a better life. These are stories that make us think about how our decisions shape not only our lives, but entire worlds. Time dilation. Time dilation is when Einstein's theory of relativity turns into an emotional bomb that tears the viewer's heart apart. In science fiction, it's not just physics, but a way to tell a story that hits the heart harder than any action movie. Take Interstellar, the scene where Cooper and his crew spend a few minutes on a planet near a black hole, while 23 years pass on the ship. It's not just science, it's tragedy. You see his children grow old, how time steals his family from him, how he loses everything he loved in an instant. It's a moment that leaves the viewer gasping with the realization of how fragile our time is. Time dilation is when 5 minutes for one character are equal to 7 years for another, and this difference creates a drama that's unforgettable. Why does it work? Because we're all afraid of losing time. Time with loved ones, with dreams, with life. Science fiction takes this idea to its extreme, showing how time can become not just an enemy, but an entire universe that divides people. Interstellar does this masterfully, turning physics into a story of love, sacrifice, and hope, where every second on screen is a reminder of how we treasure moments. It's a concept that makes you wonder, how would I live if I knew time flowed differently? It's not about equations, but about how we fight the inevitable, how we cling to every moment we have. These are stories that remind us time isn't just a number on a clock, it's what shapes our lives, our losses, and our love. Simulation theory. Simulation theory is the idea that everything around us might be fake, just code in a giant computer, and that we're just avatars in someone else's game. It's a concept that resonates with millions because it plays on our deepest fear. What if everything we know is a lie? In The Matrix, Neo discovers that his world is a simulation created by machines to keep people under their control. And this idea isn't just about computers, but about questioning reality, free will, and who we truly are. Tron. Legacy immerses us in a digital world where code is God, and every pixel is part of someone else's plan. Even Free Guy, with its lighthearted humor, shows an NPC who begins to suspect that his world is a game, and it makes us wonder, what if we too are just characters? Why is this idea so popular? Because it resonates with our thoughts. What if our lives are someone else's script? What if our choices are part of a program? It's like peering behind the curtain of reality and asking, what's on the other side? Science fiction uses simulation to speak not about technology, but about philosophy, about the meaning of life, about freedom, about how we search for truth in a world that may be an illusion. It's a concept that makes us question, reflect, and perhaps appreciate reality a little more, even if it's not real. These are stories that play with our perceptions, forcing us to ask questions that have no answers, but that haunt us. Alien First Contact, early contact with extraterrestrial life, isn't about flying saucers and little green men, but about ourselves, about how we react to encountering something completely alien. Science fiction uses aliens to show who we are when confronted with the unknown. In Arrival, aliens aren't a threat, but a mystery that teaches us a new language, a new way to think about time and loss. This is a story not about invasion, but about connection, about how language changes our perception of the world. Contact with Jodie Foster shows how humanity searches for meaning in the universe, even when the answers are frightening or leave more questions. And District 9 turns aliens into a metaphor for discrimination, showing how we treat outsiders on our planet, be they aliens or people we consider different. First Contact is always about encountering the unknown, but in reality, it's a mirror reflecting our fears, hopes, and prejudices. Why are these stories so compelling? Because they make us question, are we ready to encounter something greater than ourselves? What will we say if that moment comes? How will we appear to those who don't know our rules? This isn't about UFOs, but about humanity, about how we seek connection with others, even if they're from another galaxy. These are stories that make us feel small, but at the same time give us hope that we are capable of understanding more than we think. Post-Apocalyptic Earth. Post-apocalypse isn't just ruined cities and mutants. It's a genre that explores who we are when civilization collapses, and everything we thought important turns to dust. It's not about the end of the world, but about what remains afterward, in people, in their hearts, in their struggle. In Mad Max Fury Road, the world is a desert where people fight for water, gasoline, and hope, but even in this chaos, there's room for heroism, for faith in a better future. The Road with Viggo Mortensen is a dark, almost unbearable story of survival and paternal love in a world where all is lost, where every step is a struggle against despair. And Children of Men depicts a world without a future, where humanity loses the ability to reproduce, but hope emerges from the most unexpected place. Post-apocalyptic films are about what makes us human, the ability to cling to hope, even when everything says there is none. They're about survival, but not just physical survival, about how to maintain humanity in a world that doesn't deserve it. Every film in this genre is a reflection on what we value when we lose everything: family, love, faith in the future. These stories are captivating because they make us ask ourselves, what would I do in their place? Could I remain myself if the world collapsed? They're about how we fight to avoid becoming as empty as the landscapes around us. Human enhancement, the idea of human enhancement, is the dream of becoming more than we are, faster, smarter, stronger, more perfect. But in science fiction, this dream often turns to tragedy, where the price of perfection proves too high. In Limitless, Bradley Cooper unlocks the full potential of his brain with a single pill, but the more he learns, the further he drifts from his humanity, losing touch with reality and his loved ones. In Ghost in the Shell, Scarlett Johansson becomes almost a machine, but her soul, her humanity, is what makes her unique, something she desperately tries to preserve. And in Lucy, the same Johansson transforms into a super being, able to manipulate time and space, but loses everything that made her human, dissolving into infinity. Human enhancement is a classic conflict. The more power we have, the less of what makes us us remains. These are stories about pride, about the lust for power, about the price we pay for trying to become gods. Why is this so compelling? Because we all want to be better, smarter, more successful, stronger, but we're afraid of losing ourselves in the process. Science fiction takes this idea to its extreme, showing how technology can give us everything and take everything away. It's about the balance between ambition and humanity, about how far we're willing to go for perfection, and about how perhaps being human is perfection itself. The paradox of time travel. Time travel is always a minefield for screenwriters because the logic is usually so flawed, but we love it anyway. Time paradoxes, like the grandfather paradox, if you kill your grandfather in the past, how did you even get born, are what make these stories simultaneously confusing and incredibly compelling. In Tenet, Christopher Nolan plays with time like a Rubik's Cube, where the past and future are reversed, leaving you open-mouthed, trying to figure out what's going on. Back to the Future makes paradoxes fun, with Marty McFly nearly erasing himself from reality while trying to bring his parents together. And Predestination twists the time loop so much that you start questioning your own logic, because the hero is simultaneously their past and their future. These films work not because they're logical, but because they hit you emotionally. The fear of changing the past, the hope of fixing the future, the horror of realizing everything is predetermined. Time paradoxes are like a puzzle you assemble, knowing some pieces will never fit, but that's not the point. What matters is the journey, the emotions you experience as the characters try to cheat time. These are stories that make you think, what if I could go back? Could I fix everything? Or would I only make things worse? It's about how we fight the inevitable, how we cling to the hope that we can change our fate. The future of humanity. Science fiction always looks ahead, asking, what will happen to us next? Not to machines, not to cities, but to humanity itself, to what makes us us. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick depicts the evolution from ape to superbeing, where technology is just a step towards something greater, the next level of existence. In Her, the future is a world where people merge with artificial intelligence, but still seek love, connection, and meaning, even if their interlocutor is a program. And Transcendence with Johnny Depp explores what will happen if human consciousness becomes digital. If we are no longer limited by the body, will we still be human? These films aren't about gadgets or flying cars, but rather about the question, what makes us human when technology changes everything? These are stories about how we try to find our place in the universe, how we struggle with loneliness, how we search for meaning even as we become something more than human. The best sci-fi films aren't about predicting the future, but about understanding the present. They ask questions we don't have answers to. What will happen when we cease to be human? Will we still be ourselves if we reach the end of this evolution? It's about our thirst for knowledge, our faith in progress, and our fear of what we might lose in the process. It's about how we search for meaning, even when we stand on the threshold of infinity. Conclusion. So we've explored 10 concepts that make science fiction so powerful. Each of these concepts is like a lens through which we view ourselves, our fears, hopes, and dreams. Science fiction isn't about the future, it's about the present, just through a different lens. It's about the questions we're afraid to ask out loud, but which define us. And if you understood even one of these ideas, congratulations, you're already living in sci-fi. Which concept blew your mind? Maybe it was a time loop that would give you a second chance, or a simulation that made you wonder if you're real? Write in the comments, share your thoughts, and let's explore even more ideas that change our perception of reality. Subscribe, and see you in the next universe.